Hey, and welcome back to the Heresy Accountability Buddies podcast. I am Zach.
I'm Dan.
I'm Duncan.
I'm Jack.
I'm John.
So we've had a few audio issues, but we're back and in business and hopefully recording properly. So, buddies, what have you been doing lately?
So last time I talked about working on the trim for the Warlord Sinister and War Master for AT. Since then, I actually finished both those guys. I glued them together, and now they're waiting on basing and everything else in AT to catch up. While I was working on those, I went through and used Gundam markers. So these are basically they're fancy paint pens that come in a variety of different shapes, colors, and sizes. And since they're not in English, it's a little hard to figure out what colors you want to use through it. I will be posting a kind of a walkthrough on how to use the markers. The ones that I recommend the most as far as metallics go, you can actually hear the paint marker here, are the Gundam Marker EX. It's a new line that has just come out. They're all alcohol based, so I definitely recommend putting it over a sealed model that's not going to eat through your acrylic paint. But you can put it on over acrylic paint. You can put it on over basic plastic. The one version I don't recommend, they're called Gundam wash markers. And on the package, it actually says, goes through and actually eats ABS plastic and will eat through paint and things like that. So if you try to use it as a wash like we do, where you're kind of pooling it in corners and things like that, instead of just using it as a panel line wash, you may end up having a lot of issues with it. So I'd recommend not using those. And actually on the markers themselves, they say in English, pour type, P-O-U-R type. And so those are probably the best ones to stay away from. And then tonight when I was at the Japanese bookstore picking up more markers, because I actually went through a whole marker for the War Master and a couple of Warhounds, I found that they had Gundam marker eraser. And so this is kind of an alcohol-based marker that's just alcohol in a marker that allowed me to go in and fix any place that it kind of overflowed and gone through. So there's a couple of different Gundam YouTubers that I'll also post links to that have done reviews. There are a lot of different versions of Gundam markers going all the way back to some of the ones that were made in the 90s. They work a lot like Sharpies, whereas these ones that I've been using are more chisel tip. And I even picked up one that's a cement marker, so you can actually use it for plastic cement. And you can get empty markers as well, so if you want to be able to fill it with your own favorite paint and do your panel lining that way. It's another easy way to do it. So always looking outside of our hobby for different tips and tricks you can bring into the hobby. But if you're looking for like what colors they are and things like that, your best bet is to go onto the App Store. I've got an iPhone, so I use the Google Translate app. You put your phone at the marker and it tells you, what colors it is. The problem is like gold is kind of generic. So what you end up doing is there's about 12 different golds in the system. And I, being a little OCD, I bought every one of them and tried them against them, and then found the best one I like and bought multiple of that one for the Warlord. I started on my Ordinatus Acatheus, a big drill dozer. I've got the main chassis finished, and I'm going to start working on the treads as we talk tonight, and also the big drill itself comes up next. I want to try to motorize that, so I will probably be a little slow on working on that part, but this is all for the large F-off tank off that we're trying to do for the Accountability Buddies chat.
John, I love you to death, but you're insane.
You're going to motorize that thing?
Jesus Christ.
Why are you guys acting like that's weird?
It's not weird.
Well,
it's insane.
Weird.
It's built for it. It's literally like there's separate parts and you glue it, and so that way you can spin it manually, but I'm lazy, so I wanted to do it itself.
You should add some RC controls in there and actually have it burrow under the ground and then pop up on tables.
I do have a couple of cutting bits I could put in a power drill.
Oh my God. No one give him more ideas. He's insane.
Oh,
And
this
it's
is
awesome.
where I shouldn't mention he puts a laser in there.
I was on the exact same page, the laser. Put a laser.
Well, I mean, if y'all look behind y'all, we're on video now, but you can see the 5-foot tall Warlord behind me that's completely posable, and y'all know my Warhounds are posable and have sound effects, and actually the sound effects change depending on what gun is equipped on the Warhound.
I think I'm having an aneurysm.
Are Warlords having speakers in them and lights and everything, but the Warhound?
I've heard of people doing the Damocles with the motor that spins the radar dish. I know.
Yeah, my 4 scratch-built Warhounds all have sound effects and are posable.
So jumping back to one of your hobby tips you talked about with the pens, one of the things that I had forgotten that you can buy, you're talking about the ones that you can fill up with your own stuff in them. I've heard of people getting those and putting microsol and microset in them. And so the point there is that when you're applying the decals, you're applying it with the pen, and you can use the pen to move it around and to put the the microsol and the microset on the model as you're applying it.
I wouldn't use Gundam markers for that. They're really expensive. For microsol and microset, I use watercolor markers. They're
Yeah.
$30
Okay.
for like 3 or 4 of them. And I use those for microsol and microset. I've got the bigger ones that way. The thing I have to worry about with that, though, is sometimes you'll end up over squeezing because it's not running as well as it should. But when you seal them up, they're airtight, so you never end up evaporating the microsol or microset. I've had the same microsol set in one of mine for about 6 months now.
So how do those work if you want to use like wash or something afterwards?
For what?
Well, if you're using the Gundam marker on a model, are those strictly for just like doing like edging and detail work, or
It just works just like any other acrylic, or in this case, alcohol-based paint. So if you've used Tamiya paints before, they're an alcohol-based lacquer. So it functions a lot like that. You can seal over it, you can paint over it. With the wash markers, again, I haven't tried them yet. I've just seen so many horror stories about how in the Gundam world they'll actually eat ABS plastic with a very small amount. With a larger amount, they'll actually go through and eat any plastic. So
okay.
I've just been kind of staying away from those as much as I want. But you could, going back to Dan's watercolor pencils, you could load, or watercolor pens, you could load those with washes if you wanted to.
Yeah, I was just thinking more of like using a Agrax Earthshade or whatever over what you already have done with the marker.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, it's just like normal paint once it's dry.
Oh, okay. So,
I
Dan,
mean,
what
worst
you been
case,
doing?
you throw a matte varnish over the top of it, right?
Yeah, you'd lose some of the sheen from in my instance, because I'm using metallics. But yeah, they've got non-metallics as well. They've got them in all different colors. A lot of the Gundams are, kind of more cartoony colors for some of them, but some of them are more realistic. So you can get actual military colors and things like that in those paints as well. So
one of the things that with the matte varnish over metallics is a lot of times when you do the shades and the highlighting in there, the varnish really bring out the difference in the color and the highlight and shading a lot. So
Yeah.
But yeah.
Hey, Dan, what are you working on right now?
So I am working on 2 Ultramarine Land Raiders. I've got a Mark IIB with the Blood and Skulls track conversion, which is a pain to build but looks awesome. And then I had a buddy who told me as long as I paint it up and use it, he gave me an old Mark I Rogue Trader era plastic Land Raider. So I've got those to be painted up for my Ultramarine. So they're base colored. I put some decals on them, and then now I'm starting to work on the just doing a lot of the highlights, doing the metallic shading and highlighting will actually be the next step I'm going to work on. So yeah, that's what's on my table right now. And I've been messing around a bunch with some non-Games Workshop stuff. I went all in on a Kickstarter with a bunch of fantasy, Angel and Demon, and general fantasy models called Massive Darkness 2, and it's like 200 and some models. And so I've been priming those up and then just testing out a bunch of different methods with contrast paints just to try and whip some of those out really quickly. And I've got a whole bunch more laid out tomorrow, about at least 2 more cans of Wraithbone primer worth of models to prime when the weather's nice tomorrow. So that's what I've been working on.
Nice. Hey, Duncan, what you got?
Other than fighting my glorious allergies that are killing me right now, I finished my termite that I was working on when we originally recorded.
Yeah.
He's all done. And I've got the War Master Horus assembled, cleaned up, flashing and trim all worked out, arms repositioned to where he looks a little bit different than normal, and ready for paint. I haven't touched him in 2 days because, to be honest, I'm a little bit intimidated by doing it, but I'm actually kind of looking forward to trying to do some work on him this weekend. Not a lot, but that's what I did.
It's not bad. It's something.
Yeah,
It's still,
yeah.
your termites still lonely because you only have one.
Well, no, I actually have 2. I have one for my Sons of Horus that I just completed, and I have one for my World Eaters that I've had for a couple of years now. My current guess is I'll probably need like 2 or 3 more for the Sons of Horus, so I can try to do the Siege of Terra assault, the Saturday Night Assault, or whatever it was, that Abaddon screwed up because he's a moron.
Jack, you got anything going?
Not a lot.
Been working steadily on finishing the Infantry of the Ultramarines that I'm redoing for the 5th time. since I've started doing Ultramarines. They were my first army, so I've been redoing them basically every time I've gotten better at painting. So some models literally have 5 coats of paint on them. This got done with weathering them, and I've gone back through and re-highlighted the trim. So then it's onto a satin coat, more detailing work. And then I bought this new rust and verdigris and moss paint that is dirty down. You've seen them. You've probably seen them on YouTube, where it's that realistic rust and moss effect. I'm gonna hit them with some of that because that stuff looks really good. Past that, then I'm on to a bunch of tanks. What about you, Zach? What have you been working on, man?
More Ultramarines. Like,
What a
it never
shock.
changes for me.
But-
So, although I did make a
Oh.
minor switch, I'm heading up to go play regular 40K with a couple of good friends of mine, and then preach them into 30K.
The word
Which
of
they're
heresy.
right there anyway. They're not far. They used to play. We all moved kind of a bit of a distance from each other. My buddy Greg is halfway between us, and he takes me about an hour to get to. Where Phil, it's going to take me from where I live now like 2 hours 50 minutes roughly to get to him. So we're heading up to his place and just having a whole weekend of 40K and 30K and whatever we can get. So probably mostly 40K right now because I'm the only one who has an army ready for it. We'll still get some stuff.
That's why you need to build another legion, so you could go up there and have Ultramarines and Word Bearers, so you could have them play a heresy army against you.
No, I mean, they have their stuff. Phil has Space Wolves, and he wants to do Dark Angels as of yesterday. Greg has Iron Warriors.
Dan is just channeling his inner Erebus to try to convert you over to word bearers.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. I'm not sure what happened to you, Dan. There's something wrong.
Remember, I'm looking at Blood Angels maybe for when the new boxes come out. So
You know, that's pretty good because you can just slightly change your paint scheme from your word bearers and bring them back to the light.
yeah, I mean, I'll obviously
They're still
they'll be
good in you, Dan.
non-metallic.
I can feel it.
They'll be non-metallic, but I just see a bunch of beakies with vampire fangs painted on them like the old World War II shark teeth on the airplanes, looking awesome.
I think the entire problem is that our friend Zach is afraid to paint any color other than blue.
No, that's not. the
I
case
feel
at all.
obligated to say there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I got blue armies.
I will mention for a fact that I can also paint red and gold and white. I mean, they're all
I
like
just realized that I'm the only non-Ultramarine player currently present for the podcast tonight.
Yeah.
I'm scared.
Yeah, buddy. You might want to watch
Represent.
what you say.
Well, he paints blue too. He just only puts it on his shoulder pad.
Yeah.
Have
There's
you guys
that.
ever thought
There's
about
that.
changing, like doing an alternate color scheme for the legions that you're doing, even if it's just a squad? Well, for the world leaders, like you could do white with red
No.
shoulder pads.
No, I want them to have the blue shoulder pads because I like that look better than I like the red shoulder pads.
Speaking of alternates, did I tell you guys what I'm planning on doing with one of the new Contemptors? I want to build a Lork model in Warhound colors as a display piece.
Oh, that's not bad.
Are you sure you don't want to get the Forge World Eater one? Because man, that thing is beautiful. It's got so much detail to it.
Is there going to be stuff I have to carve off to make him look like a Warhound?
Honestly, I don't have it pulled up right now, so I couldn't tell you, but I'm gonna guess likely so.
I'll check it out.
There's
Most
some
likely,
small
yeah.
stuff, but it's not terrible. I thought he became a dreadnought after they
Before-
became world leaders anyway, so he would still have a world leader.
No, he became a dreadnought before Angron
Oh
showed up.
yeah, you're right.
They definitely describe him as one of, or the only dreadnought that's still colored up in the Warhound colors and wearing the Warhound symbol for sure. I just read that novel or listened to the audiobook within the last 6 months or so, leading up to Adepticon, I think it was.
Well, I have a picture of the World Eater's Contemptor pulled up, and it's got the World Eater's symbol on its chest, its left shoulder, and its right knee pad. So you'd have to carve those off and put on the roaring wolf dog thing, whatever.
Not impossible, but not gonna be easy.
It almost seems like it'd be better to start with a blank slate, though.
There's
I'll think about it.
my
I'll
only
take a
problem
look.
is if you're going to do him, to give him the real flavor he needs to be something other than just base plastic, because he was formerly a chapter master, and he was a super level one before
Yeah,
he
you
got
should
hurt
have
bad.
some decoration.
So I would honestly probably go with, there was another one that was really, really good that had a lot of unique symbols and stuff on it that actually looked kind of neutral. Hold on, I'm
So
looking at
the
it.
other option you could do is instead of trying to do that, you could track down the master of the Raven Wing from 40K. He came with that big eagle prow, and you could carve that down as part of his chest because they had some of the Imperial stuff on them. Or look for other things like that, like from BFG, or the Sisters of Battle have that pulpit that's got that big Aquila on it. That'd be kind of cool for his parts of him.
Nice.
Just stuff to make him look fancier.
All right, guys. So one of the cool things that came out since last released episode, someone actually went through, had a copy of the rule book, and made a nice list of all the changes from 1.0 to 2.0. I know you guys have all read it because, spoiler alert, we talked about this in the episode that didn't actually get recorded properly. But looking back on it from our discussions, we can kind of come at it with a little more of a intelligent conversation. The first thing...
Speak for yourself then.
Well, you only do so much. So the big thing, and the thing that has the entire community kind of on fire one way or another, is the concept of the reactions. And we got more information on it. So we know that you get, in general, one reaction per phase, be it movement, shooting, or close combat. And so you're going to have to kind of pick and choose what you're going to do when you're going to do it, which adds, in my opinion, a good amount of strategy. What do you guys think of the reaction concept?
So I think in general it's a good idea. The worry I have, and this is just a looking ahead with GW, is that it might become something like command points are now. So you would end up with, these are the 45 generic reactions, and these are the 20 special ones that I get for my legion. And we've seen, and we'll discuss this a little bit when we get into specific legions, that there's only 1 or 2 special reactions per legion, which helps a lot with the worry that I had here specifically. So, the Ultramarines got a specific reaction, and then as you look at the generic movement reaction, shooting reaction, assault reaction, all those look really cool. The other worry that I've seen voiced by other creators is the fact that you could do all 3 reactions against one specific unit. So, hey, you deep striked. Okay, well, I'm going to move closer to you so that I can react to shoot you, so that I can react to then assault you in return, or do the assault reaction of extra shooting or something like that. So there might be a little worry about dogpiling on certain units, but at the same time, that's now a distraction card fix, and you've burned all 3 of your reactions.
I think that pretty much 1 reaction per phase, and so I don't think the reaction to a reaction is a possibility, right? So
No, they've just said they've already ruled that out. You can't react to a react.
Right, but if during Dan's movement phase he deep strikes, so my reaction during the movement phase is to move closer. Then it comes to the shooting phase. Dan shoots or moves with that unit to do something. So then I shoot that unit. So that's 1 firing phase. And then in assault, Dan's going to declare the assault because that's his cool assault unit. So I'm going to react for my assault phase to shoot him again. So that's 2 shooting phases I've got through reactions before Dan gets to do the thing he wanted to do.
Yeah, that might come down onto the controlling player, not the reacting player, but the player that it's their phase, where they have to kind of feint with other units to draw that reaction out.
Yeah, and that also is, okay, if you're wasting those 3 reactions on my 1 unit, what aren't you doing with the rest of my army?
So I have to say I hate it because it's just one more thing that I can screw up and cause me to lose more fights. In general, though, being serious, I like the extra player interaction. I like the having to think ahead. And I mean, we said we're all Ultramarines players, and I know Jack has said he doesn't pay attention to interlocking tactics. But
Never.
I've always tried to plan shooting phase out so that I get the best out of my interlocking tactics. And you have the shooting the rhinos at things first to hit them, so then you can hit them with what you really want to shoot them with. It's going to do more damage, even better, and that sort of thing. Now, jumping ahead, that's going to be a little different given when we get to the Ultramarine previews, but I think that extra thought process of how to play is another way that is going to make the game a little more even, a little more brutal, and just fun, right? It's something else to interact with.
Yeah, without a doubt, everything we're seeing here with the articles and everything, is the brutality is definitely amping up.
Absolutely.
I
For
think
sure.
the reactions that's going to keep the individual players, like the opposing player, in for the whole game. They're not going to be running off for snacks or drinks or bathroom breaks, and because they're going to have to pay attention until, I guess, they pop a reaction for that phase.
Which is one of the biggest complaints I saw about it, which is kind of funny, but
Hey, I need my snacks, man. So, but yeah, that's the biggest thing. 1.0 to 2.0.
Yeah, I mean, so the second point is movement. I mean, obviously, we all know
Yeah.
that movement has completely changed now. There's movement statistics. The game is no longer 6 inches increments. It's now 7s or 8s or whatever, depending on. And we've seen certain vehicles that before might have been classed as a little slower have been sped way up in some of the other documentation we've seen. And there was talks about the Kratos being super fast, so no telling how fast that'll be compared to other things. And it says specifically in the document, certain patterns of jetpack and jet bike, have different movements. So it's, this might be another way for them to say, maybe the White Scars special bike gets extra movement compared to the recon bike that we had there for a while versus the normal bike. That's another cool design space they could be futzing around with. Anything else for movement for y'all? I guess dangerous terrain is also in that, so that's a big change.
Also, the fact that you're not rolling for charge distances anymore or running, that's very powerful and absolutely more reliable. And the fact that different movement, different bonus you're trying to charge, I think it was like 1 to 4 inches. You lose an inch in charging. In the middle averages, you're at your normal charge, and then the faster you get, the bigger of a bonus you get to your charge range.
Yeah,
from your
as well
initiative.
as no longer rolling dice for dangerous or difficult terrain. You just subtract X number depending on what the thing says.
Yeah.
Which is also another cool design space. Like you could say, hey, this wall is, since it's chest high walls, it requires a little more to get over than a bramble or something like that.
Man, chest high walls are kind of dangerous. I mean, they're hard for people to get over. It's next to impossible.
Not as
that's how
nimble as I
walls.
used to
I
be.
can't walk up the curb sometime, but yeah, I know I'm ancient, so
I think John in here is the youngest of all of us, sadly.
I've probably also got the worst joint.
The other thing that's interesting is that not only is that stuff all more reliable, but one of the things that you could argue would slow down games is extraneous dice rolling. And from what we've seen, an existing 3,000 point heresy army is likely to pop in more at 2,500 points, making things more brutal and taking away dice rolls that can just bog the game down at times are two ways to make a game play with more models in the same amount of time, right? So that's a good thing. The last thing we want to do is throw a whole bunch more models out there, and then all of a sudden, the 3-day, full-day event schedule is not possible at all, right? You're going to get 2 turns into a game every time, and you're never going to get further than that or something, right? So, I think that, in the thought process, they were probably looking at it that way with some of these changes, that we want it to be a brutal game, and we want games to, take a less amount of time, even though there's more models on the table, and the lower leadership we've seen and I think talked about before on models in general lends itself to that. They seemingly have taken away a lot of the ways to eliminate leadership checks altogether. Make things like Vexillas that give you rerolls on leadership checks a lot more important, right? So I think that that's kind of their thought process when they're looking at a lot of these design changes.
I am happy that I'm never going to have to deal with a 1-inch run ever again.
Well, I mean, you could have some with initiative one, but not with Ultramarines. Never mind.
No, not going to happen.
Unless he's concussed or something.
Yeah, well, if he's concussed, he's got bigger problems.
Assuming the concussion works the same way.
Yeah, so psychic powers, we no longer have a psychic phase. We're going back to 3rd through 6th edition where we have psychic powers where they go. So if something's a movement power, it goes to the movement phase. If something's like a force weapon, it goes in the assault phase. Force weapons now doubling weapon strength is a definite change.
And the fact that you can, for psychic powers, you can just go, here's a psychic power, or if you want a better version of that power, you roll your dice, go Super Saiyan and it goes off, or your head explodes.
Risk and reward. Yeah, I like it a lot.
So do I. And it looks like they've made it 10 times easier. There's no more roll a dice, roll some more dice, and here's your powers that may or may not actually be helpful this game.
I'm just waiting to see what Perils of the Warp it means and how easy it is to turn myself into a demon.
You have to turn in your AARP card.
That we did discover during the episode that doesn't exist, well, the second of our episodes that don't exist, that Dan does in fact have.
Yeah, I'm not proud. I'll take whatever discount I can get, man.
That way you can spend it on heresy, right?
There you go.
Exactly.
Oh Lord.
Unfortunately, the local hobby store doesn't give a senior discount.
So okay, next thing is so the wounds have changed. There's no more lookout sir, which is a really cool thing. Having to hide your sergeant or put him in front, you can there's no more gaming it, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah, and I always thought that a lot of flack was taken from that kind of wasn't necessary. I thought it added a lot of complexity to the game, where allowing you to maneuver around things. I got that it was annoying to some people, but still, I guess being a militia player for the last year or two, didn't see it as that big of a problem. I just either dropped more shells on your face or made sure that all my last gunners were shooting you from the side, so I got around that 2+.
Feel no pain, evade, shrouded, these are all considered damage mitigation rolls now, after armor saves and wounds and everything else. Kind of like an all-encompassing section.
Leadership has taken a big hit as far as what people have.
Yeah, it really has. Well, the General Space Marine loses a point of leadership. Leadership, we've already said several times that that's going to make a huge difference in how the games work. There's going to be a lot more falling back, a lot more units breaking.
These are all terrible words that I don't like to hear, as my currently existing Leadership 7 militia were prone to panicking enough.
Well, everybody would feel your pain now.
Right, but it's going to be worse for me. If everything, it's the opposite of a rising tide raising all boats.
But things like fear are actually going to matter in the game. They've changed a whole bunch of unit types. They've added some. So we have Dreadnought and Automata, Primarch and Demon. Biggest part in change in this is specifically the Dreadnought. So it's no longer a standard vehicle with an armor rating.
E7 weapon skill 6, 2+ save, monstrous creature that has an invulnerable save now.
And that, I think that invulnerable save, that keeps it from getting instant death.
Yep.
That's fantastic.
So I know you're talking about that one being one of the biggest changes, but I also think that the line characteristic is a very big and useful change, right? So the whole troops and implacable advance or whatever to give you scoring, right? Now it's one thing. You either have line or you don't have line, right? I think that's a very simple and easy list building thing. That's a nice change, but a pretty big change.
Yeah, it's not just troops. There's other units that can have line, so then they become scoring. Yeah.
And rights of wars let certain things become line, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, no, I think that's a pretty big solid change too with the unit types. And it's the building sets of unit types, which I guess is kind of also the keywords from 8th and 9th, but in a good way, right? You know, all of a sudden you're building all those infantry line, or you're potentially a dreadnought line or whatever, right? You know, that's a nice way to handle it, I think.
Yeah, there's lots of unit subtypes. So cavalry and anti-grav, heavy and all that stuff. But yeah, line is the big one. I mean, it's essentially implacable advance, but I think they're maybe doing it differently than last time. One of the biggest things that everyone is happy about that they're keeping is vehicles and facing.
And templates. They're staying.
And those the older of us are very excited to get whippy sticks back.
Yep, that's how we're gonna solve our who gets first turn, whoever gives up from whippy stick attack.
Back from before, when you couldn't afford a laser pointer to figure out line of sight on a table, the whippy sticks were great. Back when laser pointers were $150 instead of $6.
You find them at the gas station.
I know, no one else here probably remembers that. You all think I'm nuts. Back when you had to push the button on the phone to call people.
In my day, everyone get off of Dan's lawn. We finally figured out what defensive weapons are, which is any weapon on a vehicle that is strength 6 or lower. Load up on those sponsons, buddies.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best thing I'd heard for vehicles. I mean, defensive weapons used to be a thing back in 4th and 5th, but it was limited to strength 4 and lower, which basically just meant it was storm bolters. So now that we have actual usage of the real world usage of these guns in the game, it's going to be real nice.
Heavy bolters and heavy stubbers, I think.
Yeah.
Well,
plus all the vehicles got a more transportation ability. So
capacity,
you know, the Spartan capacity nasty. Thank you. So the
It's okay.
Spartans up 2, the Rhinos up, I believe, 2.
Yes, and now you can add your leader and the apothecary.
That, and then explosions have gotten a lot nastier on vehicles.
Oh yeah, strength
8.
No AP though, so it's a little survivable, but at the same time, you'd hate to get your Terminators doubled out by Duncan death boxes.
Yeah, that would stink. Well, great. My Terminators have 2 wounds, but they're all dead anyway.
Which honestly they deserve to be. I mean, they should be dead.
Yeah, you had some interesting tactics last time, Duncan. You want to go back through that?
Yeah, Rhino Rush is glorious. Rhino Rush is wonderful. But now, since your guys have to all start out inside of your Rhino, that means that turn 1, or when you deploy, you put that Rhino as close to the front edge as possible. You deploy your guys in it, and as soon as it's your turn, you get your guys out, and you rush that Rhino as far forward as fast as you can and block the enemy in and make them have to fight your Rhinos and deal with your Rhinos and make them have to blow up your Rhino, because suicide bombing is hilariously funny when you're using it for Rhinos. I mean, strength 8 detonations on those things when you're getting them for, obviously I don't know the real cost, but call it 35 or 40 points.
Next to what it used to be, yeah.
Car bomb via Rhino. I mean, it just sounds better than putting templates down.
Yeah. If you ran a whole bunch of Rhinos onto my side, I'm going to try to ignore it best I can. I mean, if you put a heavy pintle-mounted something or other.
So then I tank shock you if you ignore me. I tank shock you on turn 2, and you have to deal with that lower leadership to possibly break and run away.
Yeah, and combined with the multi-multas popping your vehicles, causing your vehicles to explode and more pinning.
Problems. Those Rhinos are going to be hell one way or another. Either they're going to have to get shot, or you're going to let them exist and either tank shock, ram, or shoot, and then you have to deal with that. So it's kind of a catch-22. You've got to deal with it one way or another, and people who quickly realize that are going to be really unpleasant to deal with, but it's going to be a great distraction Carnifex for when my 45 or 65 or 70 screaming Chainax wielding madmen get hold of you.
It's going to be 4th of July out there, that all those explosions.
I like it.
I wonder if you'll be able to shoot your own drop pods if your enemy gets too close to them and blow your own drop pods up so that they can bomb the other side.
Well, that was another thing I was thinking is if the drop pod, the Death Storm drop pod is still around, drop that guy right down there in their teeth and have another shooting distraction that they have to deal with, and oh look, it got blown up. Now you have another strength 8 detonation. Terrible. I mean, you go danger close with your deep strike on your pods and your Rhino rushes, and it's gonna be a little silly.
It's gonna be interesting when you get 2 armies like that, though. Like, everybody runs forward.
See, I don't know how often we're gonna see that, because it looks like close combat has been significantly weakened in the new game, from what I can tell. But
yeah, in some ways,
it does look like when it does get to be close combat, it's going to be brutal, but it's not going to be quite as commonplace as charging people all the time with Chainax.
It will still be, in some cases, kind of one-sided.
Oh yeah, especially with the weapon skill change that's going on.
That weapon skill change is powerful. The needing 5s to hit weapon skill 4 versus 5 is powerful.
Yeah, it really makes me wonder, honestly, about a specific unit, and that being the Red Butchers, if they're still going to have that strange rule they have now, where anybody who swings to hit them in melee hits them on 3s, no matter what their weapon skill is.
Oh, I mean, they can still keep it. That doesn't have to. That really doesn't have to change much.
I'm honestly kind of wondering if that not only makes it more easy for everyone, if it in this edition is going to make it easier for regular line units to hit them, but I'm also kind of wondering if it's going to make things who have a higher weapon skill than them, like that would normally hit on 2s, say a Primarch, have to hit them on 3s as well.
That's
I
interesting.
wouldn't miss that rule. I mean, it's not like the Minotaur had better back armor, so it was nearly impossible to kill in combat for 6 months.
I mean, it's going to be a thing. Maybe we'll have to see how it goes.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'm sure there'll be
really
lots
interested in this.
I'm sure there'll be lots of little.
I don't think it's going to be day 1 fact level, but I think it's definitely going to be a few months down the line answering strange questions like this that have come up.
Yeah. Well, and I also think that from what we've seen with the leaks and the previews and whatnot, that it's going to take a little while to figure out how balanced everything is, because certainly there's some leaks that seem better or previews that seem better or worse than others as far as that goes. So it's going to be interesting to see how overall Legion power levels pan out once people start playing lots more games and getting event games in and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
The
gonna be
meta, as we like to call it.
I don't want to call it the meta. That just means that we're thinking of it in that kind of format, and I don't like thinking of Heresy in that way. I like
Yeah,
thinking of
it's always
Heresy
been
as a
called
more
that.
friendly game.
Yeah, no, I can see that. I think with the attention that Games Workshop is giving Heresy, that if there are any immediate imbalances, that they can correct it early on. Because I know 1.0 took quite a bit to get things changed around.
Plus, the way that they're setting up their rule structure with simplifying things, like here's a unit, and then you have a unit subtype. You have to go to this page to see like this rule. It means that when they fact something, if there's a less chance of them missing something in all of the information that they put out. So they need to fact a dreadnought. They go, okay, here's a fact on a dreadnought. Now all the dreadnoughts are fixed. They didn't forget about the what's the world bearers dreadnought.
Oh, the
The World Bears or Word Bears?
Marigal, yeah.
Word bearers, yeah.
Garaz,
The
Maul?
Marigal.
Yeah, like I can't remember what it was, but there was something weird that wasn't a fact on him for a little while in his interaction. I think it was it Dreadnought drop pods? Was that it?
I think that was what it was. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
it
can't remember.
still
It's
And
been
then
a while.
when they did fix it, they made it to where he just can't go on him.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, honestly, it's not a super huge thing, but it does make sense for them not to be able to go in there when you look at it from a certain perspective, because he's not a regular guy. He's not a regular dread. He is the demonically tainted and corrupted. So him being around things is warping reality around him. It would screw up the dreadnought pod. It might not function properly. Yada yada yada. 10,000 years into the future, Dreadclaws might eat some of their inhabitants occasionally when they actually get used. It's kind of fluffy. I actually kind of like it.
As long as they blow up.
Yeah. And then they blow up with strength 8.
There you go. But that kind of brings us into special rules, though. Some of the bigger things, like Battle Hardened, makes characters resistant to instant death by adding to their toughness, so that Strength 8 doesn't instantly take out your characters or multi-wound models. But the biggest change is having the number after special rules. So Rending 1 or Rending 2. I'm sorry, Rending for that is like 6+ and 5+. So you know what your Rending rule is on. But there's other ones like Firing Protocol, which gives you additional shots with guns and things.
Yeah, and then there's ones that give you modifiers, like was it Breaching is one that it's a neat way to sum up a lot of these rules that used to kind of be the same, like what was it, Sunder, and I forget the other one that was almost like Sunder.
Armorbane.
Yep, there you go.
Oh,
Armorbane
yeah.
and so just slightly off. Now we just put a number on there and you don't have to remember as many goofy words.
Yeah, you just look
I
at the
agree.
number and that
And again, it's also easier to fact.
yes. If it's too strong, knock it down a number.
This is going to sound a little crazy considering I was very, very worried with some of the stuff that was going on. But I have moved from guardedly optimistic to apprehensively optimistic.
Wow. That's a big leap for you.
I know. I'm honestly, a lot of times in my own personal life, a huge naysayer of things, and I can be negative.
No. What?
Jack, shut up, Jack. We all know that I can be acerbic and everything else about anything, and I don't like change.
You
But
don't say.
Shut up again. But honestly, I'm actually kind of looking forward to this change as a whole, just for the differences and kind of the whole entirely redone landscape of Heresy that we can see.
Yeah, I'm willing to try it. You know, it's not like 9th where I went in going, oh god, I don't think I'm going to like this, but I'll still play it a couple of times. This is more, or 8th and 9th, this is more like, okay, I'm liking what I'm seeing, I will go ahead and try it.
Yeah, that's definitely how I'm feeling as well.
That's good.
And, I guess I now have to get a whole bunch of assault squads.
Never go wrong with assault squads, unless you have the chance of getting tactical squad.
Or a million last cannon squads.
There we go.
Ooh.
That's fun.
Yeah, but see, you all are building one direction, and I'm trying to find a way to make my preferred tactic style, play style work in the new game, because I really want close combat to be able to shine and be fun and a little over the top ridiculous, because I love close combat.
I had 40 Assault Marines painted up, so they've never really had a day.
Do you know what help in close combat? Rending power
Jack.
swords.
Yes, not only does it help in close combat, but it's going to help to actually see those power swords finally be used on the table more often, because I've missed them.
I just want some cool beaky blood angels with vampire fangs. Doesn't matter how good bad the army is. That's all I want. Jumping around the table and drinking blood.
You need a catchphrase there, Duncan, for your level of assault.
I think it should be obvious. I mean, I play close combat heavy armies and everything except for my Iron Warriors. My Blood Angels are close combat oriented. My World Eaters obviously are. My Sons of Horus are. Pretty much just my shtick.
Yeah. Well, it's like I love las cannons. It's literally live laugh. Las cannon.
Oh God, not that.
One of
again.
these days, we need to find some new rules that we can use with the new edition, and then we'll play your Chain Axe guys versus my Mega Arachnids for a murder. That would be kind of fun.
I would welcome that because it'll be something different. It'll be fun, and the ridiculous Chain Axe horde will go raw.
Blast weapons, they reduce the AP, so they're mostly like AP4. Plasma is no longer AP2, it's AP4, and has breaching 4+.
Yeah, it's also going to see the likely elimination of the constant suicide plasma veteran squad that seem to proliferate so darn often.
I mean, plasma.
Y'all
will
can blame
still
that on
be-
me because I built my word bearers coming into Adepticon with both a plasma tactical squad and a heavy support squad with plasma cannons. So apparently they saw my army and said, "Nope, your army's gonna suck," and made that change.
I've had them for a while too, Dan. That's what happens.
Hate mail can go to heresy.abbs.podcast@gmail.com. Attention, Dan. So I think I'm the only one that gets the email, so fine anyway.
So,
We probably are. I mean, I will personally admit my World Eater has a termite filled with 10 vets in it, an apothecary, and a chaplain that's got 10 combi plasmas, some chain axes, some power axes, and a fist. If the squad isn't quite as usable anymore, oh no, that hurts my feelings so much.
it's not going to be a catch-all anymore. It'll still be good to decent against infantry, but vehicles, no, not so much. It's
Yeah, I
not-
mean, I kind of want to see what the actual rules are for the veteran squads these days, or the new ones are, because if the ubiquitous plasma spam squad doesn't really matter as much and isn't as useful, I personally would be willing to remove all the plasmas and maybe put some Volkite chargers on there, because I think that sounds fun, because I love all the Choom as well.
Yeah, so you're gonna move from gets hot gun summer to positive Volkite only.
Yeah, I don't mind. I ain't scared.
This combined with the
rotor
Volkite
cannons
gonna
no
be Volkite
longer
summer.
have salvo. Nothing has salvo. It's all assault 4 pinning.
I don't even
Well,
remember
think-
what I mean. Maybe I should know this, but I don't even remember what had salvo in the first place.
Rotor cannons,
Rotor cannons. The only thing I can really think of. It was such a weird rule.
the grenade launchers that were on bikes, I think had it on the Hastar bikes. I'm not sure. Maybe.
Yeah, they did. And then there was some Mechanicum stuff had it as well. It wasn't exactly as prevalent as it was in like 40K, where damn near everything in the Grey Knight army had it.
I mean, I'm not complaining. It's just,
It was an odd rule.
yeah, it wasn't that common, so the elimination of it doesn't really hurt my feelings at all.
No, just keep it simple. A set number of dice to roll and go.
That seems to be pretty much everything here, is streamlining it, making it less dice rolls for things. I'm really liking that approach.
Yeah.
Seems like
Well,
a
I mean,
quality of life fix because it's less extraneous rules that didn't really matter.
good distillation of that rule system that had been existing since third and just kind of mutated, then it became seventh, then became heresy, and like they're bringing some of the things back, pulling some of the things back. Like,
Are you
know,
trying
the
to say
psychic-
that heresy is bringing sexy back?
Yes, always has.
Well, I mean, it's
And
got
the-
Beaky, so right off the bat.
And part of making this a lot easier is Warlord traits are no longer rolled for, you just pick them. So
Yes.
no longer will you go to war in the city and not bring along your move through cover ruins guy. No longer will I have to pay points to give my militia leader the Warlord trait that I wanted.
That
It
brings
makes-
me to a good question on this, and it's something none of us has an actual answer to yet, obviously. Do each of the legions get one warlord trait they all kind of have it to use? Do they get two? Do they get three? And do we get a generic set of 3 to 6 in the actual base rules as well that we can still use if we don't want to use one of the other ones? I don't know. I'm hoping that each legion gets at least 2 so that you can have, say, one generic that's for a traitor, one generic that's for a loyalist, or for the legions that didn't have that happen at all, you just have loyalist or 2 traitor, if that makes sense.
Yeah, we've
Yeah.
heard that there are, legion specific traits, but we haven't really heard how many there are or even how many generics there are. Usually by now we had a little bit of an idea, but I wouldn't mind not having the, 5 different tables, but anyone only ever rolled on strategic.
I always roll on personal, but yeah.
Yeah, pretty much everyone had their one favorite. I never saw anyone roll outside of their norms.
Yeah, no, I mean, everyone either wanted to get, if they were rolling on the personal, they were wanting to get the one where it gave you It Will Not Die and Furious Charge.
I think
Yeah,
I
strategic
just
gave you the better scoring options.
Maybe that's why I lost all the time, because I hadn't paid enough attention to know which one to roll on, so I just kind of pick every time at the beginning of the game.
I don't know, I can't remember what I rolled on, but I always ended up with Adamantium Will, and that did me no good.
Right?
I'd end up with the one where half you guys could infiltrate, or you stopped your opponent from infiltrating or something way too many times.
Things that didn't come in handy, but if you can actually pick it, it'll be nice, especially if you can kind of tailor it to what your opponent brought.
Or tailor it to your army. That way it's a lot more fluffy.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, if you can pick your own and it's to where it's constantly just more flavor increase for the force you actually have, I think none of us are ever going to complain about something that increases the fluffy heresy.
Fluffy Heresy is the win. Terminators, we already know they all have 2 wounds.
I think it's Terminators and Veterans, and most supposedly Terminators, Veterans, and individual unique squads supposedly, but we haven't seen it for certain.
Until we get to the actual book, it's all kind of
Up in the air.
it's heresy hearsay. Heresy.
Heresy?
Heresy?
I mean, yeah, it works.
We mentioned dedicated transports. You must start inside your dedicated transport. Also makes deployment faster. Stick the box down and go.
It really does.
That's another one I never did not do that.
Deployed?
So
There were occasions where I wouldn't
You never
do
deployed?
it. Especially if I'm bought them a Rhino to go suicide up, but I really bought them a Land Raider or something else.
Yeah, that's actually something kind of strange. So if you bought a Rhino for the guys to ride in, but you also have a super heavy, like a Mastodon that you could put them in, do you just not buy the Rhino now? Or do you just, what? I don't know.
Yeah, I would say just don't buy the Rhino now. I mean, it's going to be, unless you're trying to use these Rhinos for your rolling bomb idea, then you shouldn't be buying them anyway.
Yeah, because the Rhino would be you'd buy it as a designated transport. They'd have to start in there and then get out to get in the RV.
Yeah, I guess so.
Depend on what how some of the rights of war are worded, because I know some of them were worded specifically like you had to buy them a transport or have a way for them to get in transports before the game started. Like the one that was all Storm Eagles was very much like that.
So one of the things that we've been discussing as a group is all the missing units. We all know there's a whole bunch of leaks and stuff out there, but we're not paying attention to that. But one of the things that they actually mention in this write-up is that a lot of the characters, they may actually go into like what the Legends category or PDF.
Is it Legends or is it Legacy? I can't remember.
Might be Legacy.
Yeah, so that's going to be the question, is how Legacy breaks down to whether it's just units that had a model, but the model's not sold anymore. So we're looking at
Tetris Assault Ram.
yeah, the Cestus Assault Ram, the Malcadors, specifically the Omega, was sold for like a week or something before it was discontinued. And the one I'm worried about is the ones that had rules but didn't have models, like the Fulmentaris, the Nullificators, the Contemptor Cortices, all units I finished in the last month.
Now, I admit I'm a little worried about that, but they said that the battles they've been releasing on the PDFs. We talked about them, the battles of
By the way,
exemplary battle.
We didn't get one of in May.
Yeah,
Oh, that's a
they
good
were
point.
said there were supposed to be one a month, but
Based on
but because they said that, and they said all those models, right? So those are all models that are all units that didn't have models. So I'm cautiously optimistic that them saying that those will have rules means that they will also do the rules for the units that were in the original black books that did not, and red books that did not make the cut to start with eventually. I could be wrong, and I hope I'm not, but I'm cautiously optimistic that that will come in some sort of PDF format thing down the road, because I know I'm not the only one that has units that they've done lots of conversions and built up, and from what we think we're hearing are not going to exist and have rules for them, and it sucks, and I hope they come back for everybody's sake.
This wouldn't be the first time it's happened to me. I built a cultist army based on the 13th Black Crusade, Lost in the Damned list, and then that poofed out of existence. You know, if it happens, it happens. I'm not going to swear it off GW and burn my models for it, but, you know, and if nothing else, maybe Mournival has to pick up that slack while GW takes its time to release them.
I'm not as worried about missing the units because I haven't built them, but that's not the reason.
You- I thought you built the assault squad, the Lockheed Taurus.
Kind of half built one, but do a couple weapon swaps and I'm fine. But I'm hoping that they put a lot of thought into what they're going to use for replacements, because that's a lot of units that were very flavorful for different legions. That's going to hurt more, is that they're just going to be limited in their choices right away.
Well, don't
Yep.
forget, we also have been told by GW/Forge World Official that the extra units that they've been putting out in the monthly exemplary battles will be brought into Heresy 2.0. So it looks like they do have a plan going forward of the things that are not going to be in the basic rulebook to be included officially for us to expand our Heresy horizons, as it were.
That's true. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah,
All
they
these things
mentioned
may
the
actually come back
PDF. It'll come out on day 1. So if nothing else, we'll know very quickly whether or not we're screwed.
Like I
Let's
said,
see.
cautiously optimistic.
Apparently, they're trying to draw me back into buying White Dwarf magazines because they talked about rules on White Dwarf at some point too, I think.
That was mentioned officially, yes. I haven't had a subscription to White Dwarf since like 1999. I don't know if I want to do another one.
I pick up a few every now and then from the local game shop. They do the same discount they do on comic restocks for that. For me, if you tell them you want a subscription, they'll basically hold it for you, and you get it's a 5% discount, so it helps with a little bit with tax. But I've really liked some of the White Dwarfs where they'll give you the cards for Necromunda or Titanicus or stuff like that. So it's it's not the White Dwarfs of yore where you had the cool articles that went from 6 different issues talking about the awesome tables, but it's not terrible.
Yeah.
I know that the Battlefield Gothic stuff they did, some of that stuff is pretty sought after when they brought out rules and cards in the White Dwarf, and people didn't get them. Those issues sell pretty well.
Yeah, then there were some that had decals in them too. Those were really cool. And then when Heresy 1.0 dropped, there was the Ultramarines and Word Bearers pens that actually came in the issues.
Yep. Yeah, I think the usually when one of the new box sets come out, they'll have like a quick reference card that's in there that makes it really simple so you can follow the turn orders and everything else. I know I picked up one when that last box set edition of Age of Sigmar came out because I wanted to try it. So I just picked up the White Dwarf and it had that in there. Yeah,
That's the same pen that they sold like at Adepticon and stuff like that occasionally, right?
No, they were completely different. They're just like a straight-on view of a Word Bearer and a straight-on view of an Ultramarine that were because that was when they were doing the White Visions where they had the fancy magazine and they had that little dinky White Dwarf.
that was when I wasn't playing. Okay.
Yeah, it was when Calth 1.0 dropped.
Yeah, it sounds about right. Last but not least, biggest effect on your Heresy games are rights of war, essentially how you're building your army, the special rules that go with those builds. Just a couple changes. So I know we mentioned it last time when you tried to record. Thanks, Craig. Underworld Assault lets you take termites as designated transports instead of rhinos, as well as in the fast attack and heavy support slot. So Duncan, get to building, bud.
Let's not even get to building. I'm really honestly hoping that Forge World puts out a second Rhino, or not Rhino chassis, but a second termite chassis. Because while I've got the one for the regular Marines, I'd really like to have something that you can use for the same style of assault that you can fit like Terminators into, things like that, because they were in the stuff. I mean, it makes sense.
That's what I'm building right now. That's kind of one of the reasons I picked this up, is not just for the hope that Plastic Mechanicum becomes a thing with the Scutari units, but also because this Ordinatus seems like the one that would be easiest for Marines to get access to.
I just think it'd be something flavorful, more fun, and allow for more vehicle options on the table, which, as we all know, is going to be good.
Did termites not allow bulky at all in the
Nope.
1.0 rules?
No bulky.
I've been asking for like a decade, especially since Book 5 Tempest came out. I want a small, cheap-ish transport for tactical squads of 20 people because I don't want to have to get a full
Spartan
for
that.
It doesn't make sense to me.
Rudy, the local guy, built his Dark Angels around 20-man units, and all of his heavy support choices are Spartans, and everything that can buy a Spartan buys a Spartan. It's a beautiful army, but yeah, at the same time, you're just like, dude, I wish there was other things available to transport all that, especially now with New Spartan turning into a partial gunboat.
Yeah. Well, so Book 5 had a mention somewhere in there of a Avenger pattern Rhino, and I always hope that would be a 20-man Rhino. What are you gonna say?
I'm so glad that I'm not the only one who remembers that mention,
Mhm.
and that nothing ever came of that.
Yeah.
Because I always wondered what the heck it was supposed to be and how they were going to do it, and they never did anything with it. And it just
But-
seems like one of the small dropped balls that happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do that a lot. There's the random mention of the Scout Titan in the Titanicus book. There's actually more than a few mentions of different types of transports. The Raven Guard have a couple of special transports that don't have have names in the books but don't have models. Not just the Whisper Cutter or whatever it is. That never got a model either. And there was that guy online that made, I forget his name now, but he was doing the freehand murals on the sides of his White Scars. He made a Sikaran transport. So even something like that would be awesome, I think.
Yeah.
Something that maybe a little quicker, might have a little less transport capacity. I know y'all are talking about more, but I'm just saying more transports is always better. More options is always better.
I agree.
With
Go ahead, Dan.
with the move to plastic and trying to get, you know, a bigger player base of Heresy, I'm hoping that when they get to the militia type armies that they roll out Chimera rules, right? They're all over the Heresy novels, right? They talk about chimeras all over the place. You know, why did they never have rules? So when you're talking plastic, you know, Skitarii, AdMech, why not go the full route and let, you know, plastic transports for militia be a thing? Because they certainly were around in the Heresy. They certainly show up in all rules and stuff. In the books, just give them a freaking rule.
Really kind of hopeful that with this becoming an official regular line, and there really not being Xenos in it or all the other races and everything there, that we will see a massive expansion on the vehicle line for Marines, for Imperial Army, just throwing all the strange things that are in the fluff or in the background that we've never actually had actually getting models. I'd really love that. I really, really would.
Yeah, and then they could combine that with Necromunda and make them modular, goofy vehicles, or there's 1,000 different things they could do with it since they've got the abilities to do it.
Exactly.
We talked about the fact that speaking of Necromunda, since it came up, that the insect that the Dust Riders or whatever in the new Necromunda box come with, that Vorax robots are very, very similar in style. And I think that's a neat little Easter egg, because if you think about it, if you're an engineer or scientist, whatever, designing a robot, you're going to base it off something in the real world, right? And so the fact that they now have a creature that the Vorax robots look like a creature in the real world, I thought that was an awesome, awesome little Easter egg that making the world connect and make sense in a way to me.
Yeah, that could definitely work. I know for my Mechanicum, I was looking at Ambots for Castellax and Thalax. I couldn't figure out which way I wanted to go because they're bulky, but they're not bulky enough for Castellax unless I add to them and do stuff. But yeah, there's a bunch of neat stuff that could definitely be easily possible that way. And that's one thing about the rules for those, or the fluff for those, is they're definitely critters that they scooped out some of the tenacity out of and made them a little more obeying. That's the Ambot. The Ambot is an Ambol that they just chopped off parts of it, stuck its brain in a box, and made it work for them. So could work that way for the Vorax.
Yeah,
That's a good point.
yeah, it really could. I also really want to see Saturnine Terminators from GW.
Yeah, with rules.
Yeah, with rules.
We're just going to take a quick trip through memory lane, as we covered a little bit of these before the Ye Craig failures. The first one up is definitely a lot of people's favorite Legion, and they are the best boys. Yes, they are. The Space Wolves. Looking through this list, I think we saw, first of all, that army is really nicely painted. We see a very interesting Legion rule that goes through some of the interesting facts that giving everybody extra weapon skill, even if that charge is considered disordered. This actually goes through some of the psychic powers. So this is our first look at what psychic powers actually are able to do. And then we look at one of the first warlord trait for Space Wolf, for any Legion. And this is the Space Wolf specific one that gives the warlord and all models in the unities joined preferred enemy independent characters. And that whole unit gains feel no pain 5+ when locked in combat with the independent character. And they get an addition additional reaction in the opposing player's movement phase, so long as the Warlord's not dead. Now, this one is interesting. It says specifically not removed as a casualty, but I think we see some later that say specifically on the table and not in a transport. So that's an interesting wording there. I'm not a big Space Wolf guy, and I'm not a big rulesy guy. What did y'all think about this, and what did we see on it?
I think the Bestial Savagery, being able to shoot even if it's snapshots, run, shoot a snapshot, and then charge is so powerful, especially with the change to charge. Being able to, I think, charge is initiative plus your movement. That's so strong. The Crownbreaker, the Warlord trait, I think it's a solid Warlord trait. It doesn't jump out of me anything strong, other than the fact that I think Feel No Pain, like that whole entire non-armor save, characteristic, I think it might be hard to come across with this new edition. And then the Psychic Power is a great example of hey, it goes off, you get a 5-up Shroud. But if you want to go Super Saiyan, you get this 3-up Shroud. But if it goes wrong, you take a Perils of the Warp. So it's a great, show of that, risk reward type thing.
I agree. This may sound a little crazy, but reading through the entire article, the one thing I've always had a dislike for the constant level of Wolfie McWolf, Wolf, and a side of Wolf Tail. They don't do that in this article. There's no mention of the credible fetishization that the Space Wolves do with all the wolf stuff.
We don't shame
I'm so
here.
glad not to.
I still read everything with a wet leopard growl, so in my head.
But at least it wasn't a wet wolfy growl.
Yeah, and this is we've touched on this a little bit before. The problem I have with these articles is like Steve Buscemi. Hello, fellow kids.
Yeah, it really is.
Much.
I look at the pictures. I see who's painted the stuff up. I kind of sort of look at if it's someone that I know or know their stuff. Especially, I look a little bit closer, and then I look at the rules blocks, and they've got them separated out separately. As far as the rules, I mean, the Space Wolves are going to be faster than pretty much anyone else that's not on bikes getting around the table. So
You're definitely going to be fast.
Big
so fast.
Throngs of dudes running around a table. That's pretty cool. Don't know what Perils of the Warp means exactly yet or what the rules are, but seems like a good, solid psychic power with the risk reward to make it better. Like Jack said, the Warlord traits, I mean, that's kind of what Warlord traits are, right? They shouldn't set the game on fire, but they're a nice little bonus for the Warlord when it's out there. So I think, overall, I think Space Wolves look cool, flavorful, seems to make sense.
Yeah, it's very flavorful.
Now for the Iron Hands, we only got 2 of the rules call out on there, which is the Medusa Scales, which is all shooting attacks and models with this special rule that does not have the vehicle unit type suffers a -1 to strength to of the attack, which is very Iron Handsy.
It's also what they currently have in 1.0 similar.
Yeah.
And then basically vehicle gains it will not die 6+, and it gets better if they already have it.
Which is interesting. I mean, does that mean that they're going to get it? Are they trying to future-proof it for psychic powers, or maybe tech priests, or is there a Blessed Auto Simulacra or something just like that in there that's going to give us Feel No Pain vehicles?
Don't know, but it does offer a wide range of questions for what the future actually.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then again, their Warlord trait, Silver Iron Will, lowers the characteristics of Fear, X, and Rag Flage special rules.
It specifically means that you're never affected by a special rule that lowers or affect your characteristics.
Right.
Meaning Fear, Rad Fade, and losing Assault. Basically, it seems kind of like a stubborn with benefits.
Well, assuming leadership is defined as a characteristic, which I don't know why it wouldn't be. I think that we can assume the whole stat line are characteristic. This is pretty strong, right? I mean, that's to not have to worry about leadership going down due to even losing a combat from the enemy making more wounds or whatever. That seems pretty powerful. Now the bad side is the warlord, an army that has that trait may not make reactions during the movement phase, but then instead they can get an extra one in the opposing player's shooting or assault phase, and then that goes away when the warlord dies.
Yeah, it's gonna be different.
Again, like I not trying to say what's good, what's bad. I don't know where these warlord traits fall as far as how useful they're going to be. I think that's the best term for it. Like we can sit here and look. I think
overall, I was going to say, I think overall, I agree, and it probably seems like it's good for that one unit, but the Medusa Scales, the shooting attack -1 to the strength is really nice. Especially, it seems seems that, you know, it makes certain things not double out units that normally would, right? I mean, that seems like it'd be a pretty powerful rule in there
Yeah.
as far as a Legion rule. So
Yeah, and that
so
takes us to Blood Angels.
tough, right? That makes them really tough, which is a very, I mean, the fact is you expect them to kind of be tough, hard to kill if it's again
Yeah.
a Legion flavor really well. So
Yeah, and that's Iron Hand. That's really good.
Yep. Then that moves us to Blood Angels. Since you're going to be doing Blood Angels, Dan, do you want to lead us in this one?
absolutely. So Blood Angels get in Carmine Fury. So all models with the Legion Astartes Blood Angels rule require one lower result to wound than they would normally to a minimum of 2+ on any turn in which they are part of a successful charge against an enemy unit. Effect applies regardless of weapon they're using. For example, Strength 4 melee weapon attacking at Toughness 4 requires a 3+ instead of a 4. In addition, any vehicle with the Legion Astartes Blood Angels rule that makes a ram attack increases the strength of any hits inflicted by +1 to a maximum of strength 10. So yeah, I mean that's again the wounding on one lower is nice, except it's just on a charge turn, but you know it's still decent. Although someone pointed out you could have an entire game go by and never use your Legion traits. An interesting choice, right? You know, you have to be charging someone for it to work, and in theory you could have a game where, you know, setup or circumstances you never charge anyone. So then the second part is the Fires of Heaven. Any model with Legion Astartes Blood Angels exchange your plasma pistol for an Inferno pistol. So an Inferno pistol is short range 6, strength 8, AP 1, pistol 1, armor bane melta. Basically, you can throw something on your sergeant that if you get up really close to a vehicle, you get a good chance to take the vehicle out and then have to take a bunch of strength 8 wounds.
Yes, it's short range.
So I have to say, pardon me?
I said it. Yeah, it's short range, but been around for a while. It's been in second edition 40k. It's Mephiston, oh not Mephiston, but Dante. So it's been around and it's flavorful and it fits them.
Yeah, I have to say, I mean, the Legion rule doesn't floor me as being, you know, the best one out of all that's been previewed or anything. It's a little underwhelming to me because, like I said, you could have a game where you'd never use your Legion rule at all. The ramming one is interesting, and as Duncan said, you might end up using vehicles to ram more often. Just because of how you play with vehicles and the problem with getting stuck in them and everything. But I don't know. It's interesting enough.
I think it's really fluffy. I'd like the charge aspect of it, especially with the change to charge distances. I think it's going to be very rare that you encounter a game where you don't charge,
especially with Blood Angels and Dropping Sky.
Yeah.
Well, certainly I plan on doing a bunch of jump head guys, so that, you know, assault kind of feel that I'm planning to get them to be charging. So
and then that takes us to Night Lords. Treat every day like it's Halloween, I believe.
I mean, yeah, kind of, sort of.
So they have a talent for murder, which to basically
going to
Adam's Family. Halloween. But a talent for murder is basically that if you assault against a unit that is pinned, falling back, or outnumbered, you get a +1 to your wound or arm permutation, and it describes what outnumber means and how bulky models count for that. So that's nice. I'm going to skip the weapons for a second.
Hold on. Mm-hmm. I'd like to actually clarify on it.
Okay.
It does not just say that you can do it in like charge or close combat. It's also in shooting.
Yeah, oh, I missed that. Yep.
Change.
So that means that if you can pin someone with something else, cause then all your guys say, heck, I don't know, just Fury of the Legion attack, they're all going to sit there and get a bonus of +1 to all those attacks.
Assuming they're still Fury of the Legion.
Assuming yes, but even just regular 10 guys getting 10 bolter pistols.
Yeah.
It's still going to be they're going to wound on a 3+, so that's huge. It also means that guys with bolters can lance out rhinos because it says pinned, falling back, or outnumbered. So you've got 10 guys. How many guys equal a rhino?
10.
So you're going to take full.
Say you have an apothecary, so now you have an 11. Now you get a +1 for all your shots to armor pen, so you can now glance out a rhino with bolters, front armor.
Or just to try and maximize that as long as possible, 20-man squad running around attack 10-man support or heavy support.
Or 6 Terminators.
Yep.
Because Terminators
The
are
only thing we don't know is how many units a Dreadnought counts.
It depends on bulking. How much the Dreadnought bulking?
I don't remember when they gave. Well, I mean, maybe they did because it didn't matter. But in the stuff that came out from the Warhammer Day, They did not have a bulky stat listed for a dreadnought.
Mm.
Maybe it was just because that it didn't matter for what they were doing with those rules, and it was just like all the options weren't for the tactical units, but it did not have that listed. So I'm not sure. We'll have to see.
Yeah, we will. But yeah, that's something different. It also on the possibility that a dread is using wild, they tend the dread is a bulky 4, so it counts as 4 or 5 gnarly guys.
Yeah, with those rules, I think you're definitely going to see more Night Lord's Last Cannon teams, and hopefully, unlike the Sotha battle, they're not going to be randomly charging headfirst robots.
Yep.
Okay, so what's
Slaymaster.
yeah.
Slaymaster Flesh. Basically, this rule is when your warlord with this trait destroys a unit completely in the assault phase, he'll gain Fear 1, and he can get a maximum of Fear 3 up to killing units this way. And then he gets a bonus reaction during the player's assault phase. I think this is going to be really, really strong with the change to leadership.
Yes, I second
This
that.
hands down.
I
So,
think you're right.
and then we got some weapons: chain blade, chain glaive, headsman axe. Duncan, what were your thoughts on these?
Okay. So Chainblade. The guys who come with Chainblade already that I know of are the Contakar, and that's it. I really, really like this. A lot of AP3. The chain glaives and the chain blades and the heaven's axe. It's all AP3.
And
Yeah,
all of them have
they're
breaching
gonna-
6+.
Yeah, they're all going to, and they all have shreds. So I think you're getting reroll.
Yeah.
They're going to eat regular Marines for lunch.
Oh, I was just thinking about all those people that started those biker lists right before
Yep.
the change. Oh man.
Yep, it's gonna eat those for lunch like crazy. This really kind of makes Night Lord situationally possibly the best close combat army. I think I'm not 100% certain, but when you combine that with the outnumbering and a strength bonus, man, that's nasty.
I think it's going to be situational, but yeah, they definitely. I think on a straight up fight, there are probably other legions that'll be better. But if they're outnumbering, yeah, I think they can definitely put a herd on, have a run at that.
Yeah.
run at that
Yeah,
title.
Yeah, I mean, you're still gonna have the units that have the the higher weapon skill difference, right? They'll make them harder to hit, even though they can wound more.
Yeah, it's man, New Heresy is gonna be crazy, yo.
Mm-hmm. Do you know what else is crazy?
No, but I'm sure you'll tell me.
Being another brick in the wall with the Imperial Fist.
No,
That should have been the thing.
I'll see
No.
myself out.
thank you. No
night,
more shows
everybody.
a week for you.
I mean,
Good
now I
night.
have that song going. Now I'm gonna have that song going through my head all week.
Is that really such a bad thing?
I was just gonna say, there's worse songs. So
So many worse songs.
So inside this, they've got their own reaction, which allows them to once per battle in the opposing player's movement phase, if an enemy unit moves within 10 inches of in line of sight, any model within the Legionis Astartes special rule, they can do a reaction. This reaction allows you to declare a charge for the reacting unit against the enemy unit, which triggered the reaction once that enemy unit has completed its move. And that charge distance is D6 plus the lowest unmodified initiative characteristics of any model in the reacting charging, and any charge bonuses that they may have. Oof. And if that charge is unsuccessful, the units are locked in, or is successful, units are locked in combat, and they fight in the assault phase as normal, with the charging unit benefiting from any charge bonuses. Hammer of Wrath X, and if the charge fails, they don't do a surge move, which is a new rule that allows you to get a little bit of a move if you fail a charge.
Yeah, that's
The only thing I can think for this is Sigismund. Like,
Run.
wait,
I hope
where's he getting on the board?
I hope Sigismund decides go ahead and charge that rhino.
I was thinking Fafnir Ron and his crazy axes and
Yeah.
blind shield.
It's nasty.
But speaking of Sigismund, Rite of War was Templar Assault. It's almost like I planned this.
Yeah.
Which is Templar Brethren can be taken as troop choices, which is not sure what they are now, but that sounds good. All
this is
models
the
in the
first
Templar
time.
Brethren unit taken as part of the detachment unit's Rite of War gains the Heart of the Legion special rule and line unit subtype. And then what I like is that disembarking models, turn they disembark, gain Rage 2, which I'm not sure what that does this new edition. Sounds fantastic. An already assault oriented army with extra attacks sounds like a win to me.
Yeah, this is what a lot of people are saying makes Fists probably one of the best legions previewed so far. So their Discipline and Resolve says models with this special rule gain +1 to hit with any auto weapon or bolt weapon as part of a shooting attack, including reaction.
Yeah.
So if you're thinking about your Predators, got an autocannon on top. You've got heavy bolters on the sides and the cupola. That's a lot of plus oneing.
It is absolutely a lot of plus one.
I'm not going to sit here and go over the intro that people have been hammering it out since the day this dropped, and we don't want to get into that. We're trying to stay neutral on that topic.
Yeah, and it's strong, but I don't necessarily know yet that it's going to be like everyone immediately switches to fists overnight.
So have you noticed that the theme is in this conversation is that through every army we go through, we talk about how great it sounds and how whoever plays their army is going to be happy? I think that's to be the perspective that we look at it in, is the fact that every time we're reading one of these armies, like whoever has their army or planning on building their army is going to be really happy with what it does now.
So what you're telling me is that Duncan needs to read us the World Eaters.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, I suppose I can do that. I can read to you about the angriest boys ever. Oh, they get the Violent Carnate rule. Which means that on any turn in which they, with that rule, make a successful charge, they get +1 attack for that turn, in addition to any other bonuses, even if that charge is organized or disordered. So if somehow you can get them rage, that gives them, say, 2 bonus attacks, and get them this as well, that would mean they technically have 3 bonus attacks on top of whatever else they have on their stat line. So, yay, lots of chain axes going burr and chopping people into little bitty tiny bits. That makes me very happy. Then we have our advanced reaction for them called the Savage Tide. Says the advanced reaction may be made once per battle during the opposing player's shooting phase. When an enemy declares a shooting attack targeting a friendly unit with the infantry unit type under the reactive player's control, all models in the reacting unit gain Feel No Pain 5+ against all wounds inflicted as a part of the attack that triggered this reaction. And the most flavorful part of it. Once the shooting attack is resolved, react and make a charge. Follow normal rules for charging, targeting the enemy unit that made the shooting attack. The enemy may not make a reaction charge. So it's literally get close, let them shoot you, then charge away. And yeah, that's perfectly fluffy, perfectly flavorful. And I love it.
What was it? Karn said in Betrayer, our turn?
Yes, exactly what he says. And that's a perfect example for the thing. And they also have the Savage Fervor, which means any model with the Legion of Astartes World Eaters rules with a chainsword may exchange the chainsword for a chain axe, no additional cost in point, which is perfect, because if there's one thing a World Eater is never going to leave home without, I love those rules. So it's fun. It reads perfectly.
I'm not going to lie, it looks good, but I'm pretty sure I've said that every single time.
Yeah. I mean, how can I say anything negative about that? You just made me happy with giving me world that encourages me to yet again get in close and chain axe.
And then yeet your enemies in front of you.
No, I don't think there's any yeeting. I think this entirely just struck.
720
Would you say
no
those rules are on
scoping.
fleek?
Yes, 720 no.
So
John, do you want to lead us on the best legion of them all, Ultramarines?
I was going to say, going from the happy place of adding more bonuses to things, we go on to the Ultramarines, which actually lost some of the functionality. Well,
Yay!
but they kind of changed it up. So the Strength of Wisdom is now, when rolling to hit for a model with this special rule as part of a shooting attack, add +1 to the result of the roll if the enemy was targeted by an attack from a friendly unit within 6 inches, same shooting. This used to be, obviously, table-wide. It also used to only be reroll failed to wound rolls of 1, which did apply to blasts and templates, where this one says it does not apply to blast or barrage weapon. So we're decreasing the range by infinite. We're adding, obviously, to hit is going to be better than to wound, because you're getting more dice in there, and the ability to get this on every vehicle or everything that the Ultramarines have. I don't know. Part of me doesn't like the fact that it's only 6 inches. That's going to be a lot more measuring when it comes to the Ultramarine player trying to figure out what works and what doesn't work. And then, Dan, do you want to cover the Rite of War?
So the Rite of War is the Logo Selectora. At the beginning of each turn in which a controlling player of a detachment using this Rite of War as the active player, that player may select one of the commands that follow, but may not select the same command twice in a row. But you can use it again as long as not twice in a row. Effects apply to all models in the army with Legion of Astartes Ultramarine and infantry type, and last until the start of the next turn as the active player. So the commands are full march. All models with the infantry unit type and the Legion of Astartes Ultramarines increase their movement characteristic by +2, but reduce ballistic skill and weapon skill by -1. So get across the table faster, but not as good at fighting for that turn. Hold fast, must increase their leadership by +1, and may re-roll all failed to hit rolls during a shooting attack, but may not move or run in the move. Doesn't preclude charging, but you can't move, so you sit there and you get plus to hit. Kind of odd that it combines it with the leadership increase, but maybe you're getting ready to get charged and you just want to sit there and shoot at a bunch of people and then have that leadership bonus. So the third one is Retribution Strike. That means all infantry and ultramarine increase their weapon skill characteristic by +1 and gain an additional bonus of +1 to any charge rolls they make, but reduce their ballistic skill by -1. So that you're going to get a charge off for a couple charges. You get an extra bonus to hit with the weapon skill, and penalty for your opponents attacking you back, most likely, and a better chance of getting a charge. That works pretty good. And then lastly, we have regroup all models with the type Astartes Ultramarines special roll. A re-roll failed leadership test made to regroup while falling back. Any failed reserves roll. So Logos Lectora was a really interesting but not very good Rite of War in the existing rules. The benefits were not nearly as good as the penalties. In this case, right, there doesn't have the same restrictions on army building, and they all seem fairly useful. I think it's definitely a much more useful Rite of War than it has been. It's another one of those player interaction things that picking the right one to use at the right time can give you a nice little boost. Yeah, it's not bad. I think there's a lot of flavor too for the Ultramarines and how they would think out and plan out strategies of battles, and supposed to the all-comers master technician type army, and I think it fits that fluff narrative pretty well in that regard as well.
I think they definitely fixed a lot of the problems I had with it before. It's not, as Dan was saying, before you were limited on your army composition. You had to take a bunch of infantry, and then you could give them certain orders, and it was terrible. I think it's better. I don't necessarily know that I don't want bad or good. I don't know. I would almost rather trade the must change rules every turn for maybe a set number of uses you could have for each one of them or something. That way you could double up or hold the Retribution Strike for something later. I don't know. I've never liked the you can never pick the same thing twice mechanic.
Or just twice in a row.
Well,
Not twice. It's
So I
twice
already
in a
ran-
row.
Yes, that's what I mean.
I always ran mine with like Pride of Legion, right? Veterans or troops. And it wasn't because I took a whole bunch of extra veterans or anything else, right? There wasn't a better choice. And so I think this at least puts this on the same level of conversation to say, I would take this, assuming that Pride of Legion is very similar, has a similar benefits and restrictions kind of thing. I would, think about taking this and using it now, whereas before it was just never a choice, right? So, it boosts it up a little bit. It's not the be all end all Rite of War of everything, but it's pretty nice.
It addressed a couple of things that I didn't like about the old 1.0 rules for like Strength and Wisdom, which is the new interlocking tech. Your vehicles count as things that you can use for that, so you can get bonuses. So if you have multiple tanks next to each other, that's fine as long as the models themselves are within 6 inches. I'm thinking more about it, whereas if you have a squad of plasma gunners or Volkite gunners for a support squad in a Rhino, and you run the Rhino up, and you get them out, and you shoot the Rhino, and then all your squad members can now shoot and get the bonus of essentially the Rhino painting their target. That actually might be kind of a conditional situational bonus.
Yeah, but you're losing
thing
the assault bonus that it had before, where if they were in combat, you could reroll charge, and the ability that if your gambit there failed, you could call in, a long bombardment with a a heavy weapons team or something like that. So that's the problems I see with it.
Yeah, because normally
I'm pretty sure.
I don't really play gunline anyway, so
Yep.
I can't.
I'm pretty sure that I have never ever had a situation where the assault part of that has come up in the game of Heresy I've played. I remember the rule and it just never ever comes up. But I will say that like I can see my Fire Raptor is always going to try and be within 6 inches of something.
Yeah.
It
the
is
only
interesting
major-
because if you're in a Rhino and assuming it still has the ports to shoot a couple of guys to pop their heads out and shoot guns, I assume you're within 6 inches of the Rhino itself at that point. So that's in your thought.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have. Like, if I can park my Sakaran back by my las cannon team, that'll help one or the other.
Will it though? Because if you're back there by that and your Sakaran gets blown up, that last can team's taking
Yep.
Well, any vehicle that I end up using that with, and it's going to be a potential hazard.
Tempters or Daredeo or anything. Gonna
Those aren't
be-
vehicles.
But they blow
I mean,
up.
Yeah.
it'll be handy
Tech
in a,
Marine with conversion beamer sitting in the back. It uses the plastic conversion beamer from the old hybrid Gene Stealer in the old Space Hulk expansion box.
Back in 1920, when Games Workshop first put stuff out, I had a rock with a Binky helmet on it. I'm using that rock and Binky helmet today. Thanks, Dan. We love you.
Well, that was back when
Duncan,
they decided what they looked like. So you had plasma cannons one week, and next week they called it a conversion beamer, and just kind of swinging back and forth between what was what.
Duncan, you are remorseless.
I know. I love
Do you know
myself.
what else is remorseless? The Death Guard.
oh,
Yeah,
that's a segue.
As much as I respect you, Jazero, that was a terrible segue. But thank you. So since you have a Death Guard army, Jack, why don't you tell us all about it?
Remorseless. A lot of words to basically say that they're gonna keep walking at you no matter what's going on. Any model with this special rule that does not have the cavalry unit or artillery unit subtype ignores any modifiers or restriction on moving during the movement phase, including modifiers imposed by terrain or restrictions from rules such as pinning. And you, as long as you don't run or make any other alternative form of movement, such as activating a jump pack, disembarkment, or deployment via deep strike. Also, furthermore, you count as stationary even if you move. So that means that squad of las cannons that are Death Guard will be able to move and shoot, which sounds absolutely fantastic. Kind of makes me want to expand my Death Guard army, I'm not gonna lie. And then vehicle unit types ignores the effect of immobilized results on the vehicle damage table. Does not ignore mobilized result, but it does allow them to move if the crew is stunned or is on the vehicle damage table, so they'll still be able to move and act normal, as far as we know right now. So Remorseless sounds fantastic, especially when it comes to this sea of bodies walking across the tables, laying down all of the choom and zoom and voom and whatever other sound effects you want to use for weapons.
So one of my favorite units in Heresy 1.0 was an Armistos with a Volkite Culverin.
Yep.
And like 6 to 8 dudes with Volkite Culverins. And with the long march in, sorry, not the long march, but with, in the long march in turn 1, I think it was, you could get them to be move and shoot with no penalty.
Yep.
And I'm really wondering if the Armistos exists in Heresy 2.0, how nasty that squad can be to melt faces with all that choom and the bonus to shooting, if it works.
Mm-hmm.
Because that just sounds like something that's going to be beautiful for Death Guard.
Mm-hmm. Then we have a series of basically chem flamers, alchem, pistol flamer, a heavy flamer, and a cannon, which is templates varying from strength 3 to 6 with AP 5 or 4, all of them with Get Hot, all of them with Fleshbane, all of them with Assault 1, except for the pistol, which is pistol, and the cannon, which is heavy 1, Torrent 18. So, depending on what Fleshbane exactly does in this new edition, that could be really good or really bad. I'm not sure yet.
I don't know. I like it, though. I really think that this kind of everything so far for the Death Guards really made them more fluffy, and that whole constantly, relentlessly moving forward into the hellstorm of fire on the battlefield. It's just flavorful as all get out.
Do you know who may have the knowledge about what
No, Jack,
Fleshbane...
stop. Just stop, Jack. Stop. Just go ahead and tell us that Thousand Sons are next.
You are absolutely no fun, sir.
They have flesh chain.
It's so late.
What you all can't see, because obviously this is an audio podcast, not a video cast, but that is me face palming because Jack is being Jack.
Oh, it's so late.
I did it for the really look from Dan there for a second, but
That's fair.
Thousand Sons, right? And of course, no matter what the jokes say, Magnus did everything wrong. His heart was in the right place, but he did everything. So we start out with Cult Arcana. All models with infantry are cavalry unit type, but not those with artillery or automated artillery. With this special rule, gain the Psyker subtype. This does not grant any disciplines, but does not otherwise remove any disciplines the model has access to. In addition, all models with the infantry or cavalry unit type and the character unit subtype that have this special rule must select one minor arcana option. Any model with the infantry or cavalry unit types and both the independent character and Legioness Astartes Thousand Sons special rules that does not already have one or more psychic disciplines may be upgraded for plus 15 additional points to gain a single psychic discipline from the core psychic discipline list. Yeah, they get to all be psychers. I don't know what the ramifications of getting the psycher subtype without a discipline is, but certainly characters, independent character get psychic abilities. We don't really know much about what those are yet. Know how cool and powerful that is, but it's definitely flavorful. And
In
then
Heresy
we have
1.0, everything that was not a vehicle, I think, got a psychic power. So
Yeah.
it can be different what goes on.
Well, and assuming that the psychic powers fit what we think they are, where you get some benefit, but then you can roll for a greater benefit, but risk perils of the warp. That's kind of, hopefully they'll be more balanced. Certainly, you don't have to deal with the whole Thousand Sons having the psychic phase when they're blowing up half your army and you're not doing anything because it's just powers that go out through the rest of the phases. I think it's gonna be interesting to see, but it should be fun.
I agree.
So then the other thing we get for Thousand Sons is Fortress of the Mind. So this is an advanced reaction. So this advanced reaction may be made once per battle during the opposing player's shooting phase. When an enemy unit declares a shooting attack targeting a unit under the reactive player's control, made up entirely of models with the Legioness Astartes Thousand Sons special rule and the Psyker subtype, which we already know they get Psyker automatically by being infantry and Legion Astartes. But anyway, once the active player has resolved all to hit and to wound rolls, but before any armor saves are made, the reactive player must make a psychic check. If the check is passed, the reacting unit gains a +3 invul save against all wounds inflicted as part of the shooting attack that triggered the reaction. If the check is failed, then the reacting unit gains only a 5+ invuln, and both the attacking unit and the reacting unit suffer perils of the warp, removing any casualties and immediately before resolving any unsaved wounds inflicted by the shooting attack that triggered this reaction. So once a turn, you get a bunch of invuls, and if you want to risk it, you can take perils of the warp, but your person shooting at you would also take perils of the warp. So seems interesting.
Yeah, and it's once per turn or once per battle.
Once per battle, sorry, yeah.
Okay, because
So
I'm like,
it's-
ooh,
yeah, no.
I think it's fair because it gives the Thousand Sons player their 3-up save that they really liked with their segment terminators, kind of spread that love around, but it evens it out because it's only once per battle now.
Can I throw something out there that it's just me thinking it's completely unsubstantiated? So we know that the Thousand Sons get psychered just for all their infantry, right?
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
some of the rules say that they have to have Thousand Sons infantry and be listed as a psyker, which should be everything.
Yeah.
It makes me think possibly in the future when we get Sisters of Silence, if they're within a certain range, they remove the psyker rule from those units.
could be for allies.
It's possible.
I don't know.
There's a silence also looking at, or assassin looking at how many psychers are within X inches to get shots and things like that.
Yeah.
So there's
But the actual abilities that were just read said that they have to be Thousand Sons and they have to be psychers, but those should in theory be synonymous. So I wonder if there's a way to actually strip the psycher rule from them, even
Well,
temporarily.
the other thing though is that the Fortress of the Mind reaction does not require actually actually an infantry subtype. So thinking about it, if you could give a dreadnought or a vehicle a psyker subtype in Thousand Sun, it could also get use this ability and get an invuln save, right? So
true.
isn't there a psychic
Dreadnought.
dreadnought for
Yeah.
Thousand Suns already?
There is in first
Or
edition.
even more, right. So, so this, and, if that's the case, he probably has a 5+ invuln straight up. So you're only going to use it if you're going to try and roll for the 3+. But at that point, your dreadnought, if that last cannon unit's shooting at him, all of a sudden you might want a 3+ invuln, right? And so you need him to survive that turn. So, that's interesting too, right? To think about.
It really is.
Like I said, it was unsubstantiated, just me spitballing.
Yeah.
It was just one of those things that popped in my head.
Well,
like,
and
the wording is kind of suspect.
but yeah, well, the other thing that I just completely throwing something out there that's random in my head and thinking about running events and creating unique missions for events, all the reaction mechanism gives you the ability to create scenario specific reactions for a certain tabletop, right? That is another, it's not just something that affects the game itself, but it gives you an ability to, as a GM event runner, maybe you've got gun turrets, and if someone's sitting at that gun turret, then they can, use it once a game to react and shoot something because something happens, or, something like that too. So that's something that I really hadn't thought about till just now, but popped in my head. That's an interesting thought process, right?
That is
Yeah,
actually something kind of interesting. I hadn't even contemplated that.
Yep. All right, so Duncan, are you going over Lunar Wolves?
I will happily talk about the Sons of Horus, sir. Because, let's be honest, without them, we would not have the Horus Heresy being what it is today.
I have to say that was a merciless joke there, Zach.
Thanks. Duncan, are you getting
Thank you,
a little
Dan.
more soft on Erebus?
No, because Erebus screwed the Sons of Horus over, and Erebus is always going to be the reason for the heresy. But these are the guys who he screwed over most to make the heresy happen. But
Okay.
Erebus is still always going to be the mustache twirling, top hat wearing stooge that he is. Dan, I can't wait to see you do that model. Right. So Sons of Horus. We get a couple rules here. First one up is Merciless Fighters. During a turn in which the unit made up entirely of models with the Legions Astartes, Sons of Horus special rule, successfully charges or is successfully charged. The strength of all melee attacks made against any model in that unit that does not have the vehicle unit type suffers a modifier of -1. Models with the vehicle unit type and this special rule instead inflict an additional 3 hits for a total of d6 plus 3 or 2d6 plus 3 if it's super heavy on units composed of models that do not have the vehicle unit type when conducting a ramming attack. What's interesting about this is it tells us 2 things. One, you can ram units rather than tank shock. You can ram units and inflict hits on them with vehicles now. And number 2, if you charge or get charged by guys who have Power Fist and you have a character in there, you're not going to get doubled out because, at least on the turn you charge or they charge, because they're going to basically be swinging at strength 7 and your toughness 4. It also means that those Marines who are swinging back with regular close combat weapons that aren't increasing their strength, they're going to be trying to wound you with strength 3 against your toughness of 4 or whatever. Man, that's going to be kind of neat.
Seems pretty powerful, seems fluffy, right?
It seems kind of like the Iron Hands one that we saw earlier, where the strength of all attacks goes down by 1, but this one's only in melee and only in turn 1 of charging. I dig it. I really do.
Yeah, this is why I have a problem with the Ultramarines one, is because it's so limited, whereas every other one we've seen is table wide.
Yeah, that's very true. And then we have their advanced reaction called Death Dealers. This advanced reaction can be made once per battle during the opposing player's shooting phase when an enemy unit declares a shooting attack targeting a friendly unit under the reactive player's control. That is composed entirely of models with Sons of Horus rule that is within 12 inches of the attacking unit. Before the enemy unit resolves any to hit rolls, the reacting unit can make a shooting attack targeting the unit that triggered this reaction, increasing its ballistic skill by 1 for the duration of the reaction. A unit that makes a shooting attack as part of this cannot make any attacks indirectly, so no barrage, no out of line of sight, and vehicles can only fire defensive weapons. Template weapons can be used as part of this, but can only do Wall of Death, and they only get to use the template weapons if they're within 8 inches, not the 12. Once this is fully resolved and all casualties caused by it are removed from play, the enemy unit may resolve its own shooting attack, though models removed as casualties due to this may still attack. That last part kind of means it's not quite as potent as it could be, but it's still fluffy. I still like it. It's cool. Plus, Sons of Horus. They got that green and black. They got Abaddon and Pappy Horus. And we're up to today, 528. Now we just kind of
Well,
wonder what we're going to see next.
except there's two more things that we did not talk about. There are model releases. So each of the past 2 weeks, we got a Legion Mark 6 upgrade pack for Iron Fist and Sons of Horus, which are the
Imperial Fists and Sons of Horus.
or Imperial Fist. Sorry. It's getting late. Which the box set, right, is painted. You get apparently transfers for those two legions, and they are Mark 6 shoulder pads and helmets, and interesting looking helmets for Mark 6 because they aren't really beaky helmets. So yeah, I really like the Sons of Horus helmets. People say maybe they aren't traditional Mark 6 or beaky looking helmets, but especially the ones with the spikes and on the top. And I really like the way those helmets look. Shoulder pads are shoulder pads, but the helmets are nice.
So you're thinking about replacing some of the beaky helmets?
I'm not, because I'm doing Blood Angels, but we'll have to see what the Blood Angels ones look like. But the Imperial Fists ones are pretty nice too, right? They're ornamental. They've got a couple of them have the Templar symbol on. They've got the laurels on the head. Again, they're not beaky. They're a more
Mark III looking.
Mark III looking mask almost, except it's not an open eye socket all the way across, so it's not exactly Mark III. The one with the plume is really, really cool. So I'm not, neither one of these are driving me to change which Legion I want to build, but I think seeing armies with these upgrade bits on them on the table is going to be really cool to see. So I like it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then next time we talk, we should be going over World Bearers, Salamanders, Raven Guard, Alpha Legion. But there's 5 days in a week, so I'm not sure what the other drop is going to be this coming week.
I have a theory, and my theory is that the big drop on Friday is going to be pre-orders going up, but I don't have any inside information saying that's true. That's just me wishful thinking and following the countdown path. I forget if it was Zach or who came up with that original theory about release dates. And then I would expect a 2-week pre-order time. So then 3 weeks from, we're recording Friday night, the 27th. So I would assume 3 weeks from tomorrow is likely when we will see everything be available, is what I'm hoping.
I'm really kind of hoping not. I'm hoping that next week we get to see the Word Bearers, then the Salamanders, the Raven Guard, and the Alpha Legion. And then I'm hoping on that Friday, rather than see pre-orders open on Friday, I'd love to see the pre-orders open on Saturday. And I'd love to see them touch on the Black Shields on that Friday.
Do we think Black Shields are going to be in the books that come out with the release, or do we think they're one that's going to be...
Who knows? I hope they are.
Yeah.
I have zero faith, but I truly, truly hope they are, because it's something that's flavorful, it's unique to the heresy, and it's been around for a while, and I really like the idea of it.
Fair enough. Certainly, I mean, they're all Marines, so the basic Marine rules are already written and established and play tested, so it's just a matter of coming up with, how their rights of war, or I guess the Black Shields had something different besides rights of war, right? But how the Legion rules or the unit rules would work. So it'd be interesting to see.
Chimera or whatever else they could do. It was like their genetic makeup or why they left.
So that your theory, Dan, that it's going to be 3 weeks from today?
That's my hopeful, optimistic prediction. We'll see.
I'm going to go out and say that they're going to announce when pre-orders are on the 29th of this month.
So Sunday?
Yeah, this be completely crazy.
Jack, that's utterly insane.
It is.
It's so crazy, it just might work.
Since we're going to go out there and throw out our theories, I don't know when pre-orders are going to go in, but I'm going to say that everything's going to be released so you can pick up your stuff and play the weekend of June 18th, which is Father's Day weekend.
That's pretty much what I'm saying too. So
way to get the grognards, since they're all old and need to get people to buy gifts for them.
I represent that.
So do I. So does Dan. So does Zach. Heck, so do you, John.
Yeah, I ain't got a kid yet, though.
Dang it. Okay, that almost counts.
He has pets.
So,
I think
all right. Are you ready to put a bow on this thing, wrap it up, tell everybody good night, and that we can't wait to talk to them next time?
It is.
Indeed.
Look at us
And
go. Look at us go.
Yeah.
Zach, take us
yeah.
out of here.
Well, this has been episode 5.1. Real quick, I just want to dedicate this one to Ned, who has missed out on both of his guest appearances for us. I want to thank you all for listening in, and this is going to be a long episode by the time we get this sucker released. So thanks on behalf of all of us, and I am Zach.
Dan.
Duncan.
Jack.
John.
And we'll catch you next time.
Bye now.
There's the
See ya.